Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Army General S.L. Narasimhan retired from the Indian Army. He was a former commander of 3 Corps, speaks Chinese, knows the Chinese very well. General, you were in China, in Beijing, in 2003 when Atal Bihari Vajpayee, former Prime Minister, went to Beijing, and that's where we met. First, welcome to ThePrint.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jyoti.
We are speaking today 48 hours or so after the news that 20 Indian soldiers were brutally killed on the line of actual control in the Galvan Valley in Ladakh. What is the latest situation?
The latest situation seems to be that in the place where this incident took place on the 15th of June, they seem to have the troops seem to have disengaged. And yesterday, I'm sure the ground level talks are going on. And there is quiet in that area, but I'm sure it is tense, definitely.
But like you said, there's major general level talks taking place even as we speak. So what are these talks about? What are they for?
The basic thing is, we need to look at the 6th June Lieutenant General level talks that took place, where a consensus was, I think, arrived at to say that disengagement will take place, and at the places where these face-offs are taking place, further discussions will be conducted to work out the modalities of this disengagement. I think it is during one such a discussion, or for that matter in the modalities of disengagement in the Galvan, is the place where that incident took place on the 15th of June. I think these talks that are going on now will be basically to ensure that the disengagement process that was agreed upon on the June 6th are put into place, and there are no other incidents happen like the ones that happened on 15th of June.
So, General, on the night of 15th of June, when this border fracas takes place, we know that 20 Indian soldiers died. Do you know how many casualties the Chinese suffered?
See, what we can definitely say is that there were casualties on the Chinese side, but how many exactly will be very difficult to confirm from our side, because the casualties happened on their side. The Chinese have evacuated them. We don't know how many of them died, or how many of them are being treated and got well. These things only the Chinese will be able to say.
But what is your
estimate? We definitely know that there have been casualties on the Chinese side. I get a feeling it will be somewhere around either the same amount, same numbers as we had, or little more than that.
Which is what? Which is how many?
We can't put a number, as I told you earlier. It's extremely difficult to put a number.
No, but you're saying that you do have a number, that your side, the Indian side, does have a number. So approximately, if you're saying 20 Indian soldiers died, would this be more than 20? Would it be 35? There are various numbers floating around.
I know. I understand that the numbers are floating around. Initial numbers came as 5 killed and 11 injured, and then the figure went to 43, then some figure came as 35, then figures went to 65, 80. That is precisely the reason we can't predict the exact numbers. But what we definitely know is that the Chinese side also suffered casualties, definitely.
Would these be more than what the Indian side suffered?
Possible. It is quite possible that they suffered more casualties than the Indian side, but it is extremely difficult to confirm.
Now, there are also reports coming out that there are several Indian soldiers that are still missing, and the fear is that the Chinese would have them.
See, officially we haven't come to know this, that these numbers are missing, etc., etc. I don't think it has been put out anywhere officially, and so we actually don't know. So we need to wait and watch. If there are any further people missing, etc., I'm sure the official communications will come sometime later. I'm sure if it is there, but I'm not sure that is officially confirmed as yet.
So just to add for the benefit of my viewers, and I should have said this before, General Narasimhan, you're a member of the National Security Advisory Board, the NSAB. So everything that you say, of course, is worth a lot. And this is, so just to come back to the question of Chinese casualties, you're saying that it is probably more than what the Indian side suffered, but you're not willing to say that Indian soldiers are still missing.
It is not that I am not wanting to say, We haven't got any kind of official input on this, and so it will be extremely difficult to say one way or the other.
Right. Let me ask you about what happened on the night of 15th of June. Again, there are so many versions floating around, and some, of course, official sources, but some not so official. So can you tell us what happened?
Basically, I think in the evening of 15th of June, the unit of 16 Bihar Patrol went there to check that the disengagement process was on or not. They found probably a structure kind of a thing, in the sense that some tent or something from the Chinese side was on the Indian side at that point in time. They were trying to put it there.
In the Galvan Valley.
Sorry, in the Galvan Valley, yes. Yes. And the Indian side asked the Chinese side to go back. The Chinese side went back, all right. But then I think they came back subsequently, and that is where the scuffle took place. And there was some altercation there at that point, and the scuffle took place, and that is where the casualties were suffered.
So what are these reports about the fact that there was a ridgeline, a thin ridgeline, and that the fighting or the fisticuffs took place there, and a lot of the Indian soldiers then fell into the icy river beneath, the Galvan River?
That is possible. That is definitely possible, because the terrain is quite treacherous out there, and the temperatures are very low. So obviously, if somebody has fallen into the river or something, then obviously hypothermia will take a toll on that.
So if you can perhaps just reconstruct for us. So on the 6th of June, when the two lieutenant generals, or lieutenant general from the Indian side, a major general from the Chinese side, talked about the escalation or disengagement. So in the wake of that, and both sides went back, you're saying, from the positions that they had taken?
Yes, the report that came in even around that time said that there was some kind of disengagement that was taking place. Even prior to 6th June, the media reported that the disengagement was taking place before the lieutenant general level talks.
Okay.
So once on the 6th of June, when the talks took place, there was a consensus on the disengagement, and one expected that disengagement process to go on smoothly. Apparently, it has not gone on smoothly in the Galvan Valley, at least. So that is where that incident happened on the 15th. And on 6th of June, it was decided further talks will take place in the next few days to decide on the modalities of disengagement at the various face-off points. So that is where things seem to have gone wrong on the 15th of June.
So have the Chinese soldiers retreated or withdrawn from the Galvan Valley?
At the moment, disengagement is what we hear. That means there has been a gap. There is a gap that has come up between the Indian forces and the Chinese forces. How far exactly have they gone back? Whether they have fully returned to the areas which were there before April, that is before these incidents started happening in the first week of May, is yet to be confirmed. But there has been a disengagement, is what we hear.
So in this particular incident on the 15th of June, the Chinese, so if you can just clarify for us. So the Chinese went back and the Indians also went back. But then this is on the Indian side of the LAC, isn't it?
The incident that happened, that on the 15th, when I said that the incident that happened on the Indian side.
Right.
The Chinese side was trying to actually change the status quo unilaterally by coming into the Indian side and pitching up a tent.
Okay, and which is when the Indian soldiers went to demolish the tent.
Yeah.
And that's where the scuffle takes place.
Correct.
So what happened in that scuffle? Can you tell us a little bit about what happened, how long it took, what time of the evening was it? It
was sometime in the evening, as I am told, and probably the scuffle went into the darkness. Is again what we are told. I think some stone pelting had taken place, some baton, etc. were used. That kind of a thing happened. The only thing that I can confirm is that there was no firing that happened on that particular incident. And why I am saying this is, if the firing had happened, the casualties would have been rather more than what we have seen at this point in time. To that extent, it is okay, but to say that firing didn't take place but 20 casualties occurred is also not a good thing to convey. So what I am trying to say is, the the level of violence seems to be varying from pushing, pulling to less than opening firing. In this particular space, things are happening.
So we've seen not just reports but photographs also on the net, where these clubs with barbed wire wrapped around them have been used ostensibly. Can you confirm whether these very sort of weapons that look really terrible, that they were used?
Unfortunately, I haven't seen them. I saw in the photograph in the net, like you have seen. I've also seen it in the net. But then photographs in the net are actually, it can be anything. We need to actually authenticate it. In fact, I just saw it about an hour ago, this photograph which was put up.
Yeah.
So I need to verify this before I commit on this.
Okay, but then what kind of weapons were used? Were they sort of,
Definitely stone throwing took place. Some kind of sticks and batons were used. I'm very sure of that. But
Club?
This kind of a club is what? Club is again a baton kind of a thing with a thicker head, like for example a baseball bat kind of a thing.
Right.
So I'm not sure whether this barbed wire thing is confirmed. I need to verify this picture which has come out.
Okay, but brutal.
Yes, that I agree. The aggression was brutal. That is how we suffered so many casualties anyway.
And you would not call this soldiering anyway, would you?
I agree. Soldiering doesn't behave in this manner or doesn't deal in this manner. We have certain code of conduct amongst the soldiers mainly as to how to fight. It generally happens in that manner. I think on the line of actual control, this is not the first time such an event has happened. You know that in 2017 when Doklam was happening,
yeah,
you found stone throwing happening in Pankungso. This time around, even in Nakula, there was aggression where injuries were suffered. Pankungso, the injuries were suffered. So this is not the first time that it has happened. So we need to probably look at and analyze this incident properly and see how to deal with this.
Are you saying that that you could change the rules of engagement along the LAC, the line of actual control?
That we need to come to a call after we analyze these incidents properly. I'm sure once the event gets over, I'm sure people will do a proper analysis of this and see as to how to deal with this kind of a situation.
But what would that mean? What does that mean when you say that you could change the rules of engagement?
The basic understanding is that we don't open fire along the line of actual control. That is the reason you find we keep saying for 4.5 decades, no firing has taken place across the border. So firing, I think people understand that should not be done. So does that mean that below that anything can be done? Is something that we need to analyze and see, and work out methodologies of handling a situation like this if at all it comes in future.
Right. And just to come back to the casualties, there has been a report in the South China Morning Post. You may have seen it, General, that sources in Beijing are telling this reporter from the South China Morning Post that President Xi Jinping will take a call on whether or not to tell the media, to tell the world that X number of casualties has taken place. Do you think that sounds plausible?
I'm not very sure of that because the systems are different. We are a democratic system, we are a democratic army. We generally declare the casualties as and when they occur. We give out the names, etc., so that everybody knows what has happened. But Chinese system is not similar. They are a different system, and I have not seen them declaring names, etc., of casualties, other than one pilot who was brought down when that pipeline incident of US took place in 2001. Right. Other than that, we have not seen casualties and all getting declared like this. We'll have to wait and see.
Okay. Now, the Chinese are putting out the PLA's spokesperson, as well as the Chinese Foreign Office spokesperson, Mr. Chow.
Go ahead.
So the Chinese are putting out the PLA spokesperson, as well as the Chinese Foreign Office spokesperson, Mr. Chao Lijian, has said that the Galvan Valley is ours, meaning China's.
Yeah, they have said Galwan Valley region is ours.
That's right.
They have exactly not said Galwan Valley is ours. Galwan Valley region could mean anything.
It says that China owns sovereignty over the Galvan Valley region. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Galwan Valley region is what they have said. So therefore, we need to, I'm sure the diplomatic channels will be clarifying this from them, what they mean by this. In any case, Galvan, as we know it, is part of Indian territory, and we have no doubts on that. So that I think they need to discuss at the diplomatic level to see what it means to say Galwan Valley region. What does it mean as a region? Which all areas are included in the region is not specified. So that is something further clarification needs to be sought.
But would you rebut this? Would you say that there is a difference between? Is there a difference between the Galvan Valley and the Galvan Valley region?
I think so. Region means it shows an area. Valley means it shows a valley. So these are two different things. So we need to probably check out from them as to what they mean by this Galwan Valley region.
Are you checking out?
This is my personal opinion. I'm sure the diplomatic community, I'm sure the diplomatic officials will be looking into this as to how to deal with this, on how to clarify this.
But the Galvan Valley is India's.
Of course it is India's.
And that is something that the Chinese also know.
Yeah, they also know that. I mean, they also know in the sense that to deal with this question, I think we need to go back to the claim lines, etc., which had happened earlier. Chinese have had a claim line which they had put out in 1960, and that is the general claim line that they stick to. So even by that, even if you go by that, the area where these incidents have happened is on the Indian side. So that is something that we need to be careful about, and that is the reason we maintain Galwan Valley is our territory, and the disengagement that is taking place should go back to status quo ante as existing in the month of April.
So the Prime Minister made a very strong statement yesterday when he said that India will give a fitting reply. But the Prime Minister said that India will give a fitting reply if it is provoked. What would you say?
Yeah, that fitting reply if it is provoked is I'm sure PM is absolutely correct in saying what he said. The issue that comes up is there are many levels of interaction, talks, below military level operations. Many of them, many options are available. So if you say that if China provokes us, or if any country provokes us, we will give a fitting reply. Of course, we'll give a fitting reply. That does not necessarily mean it is going to be only in the military domain. It can be in any domain, maybe diplomatic, maybe economic, maybe other issues also put together. It's a combination that will work.
So would you agree that this was a provocation?
I would say yes, to some extent it was a provocation, but provocation doesn't mean for every provocation you go and do this. So military option is the last option, if that is the way your question is actually directed at.
Right.
Military option is the last option. I think we need to exhaust all other options that are available to us before we go on even on that path. And I think the space is still available before we take a call on that particular thing.
So what kind of space is available? What are the options?
There are many kinds of space. Even on the ground level, when the talks take place, it could come to a solution. The diplomatic talks are going on, that could get a solution. The political level talks are going on between the foreign ministers, that could reach at a solution. Then there are other military options which are not in the kinetic domain that can be done, which I don't want to discuss. Those could be done. There are many options available before we go on to the military option, which people are generally been tom-tomming in many of the channels.
Right.
I think the point I want to convey is, yes, we have suffered casualties. So did the Chinese side. But the issue that comes up is, these are decisions not to be taken on emotions. We need to weigh each and every option carefully till the end result, and then take a call on what we need to do or what we don't have to do. So what I suggest is we need to have patience. We need to have our options worked out at all domains, not only military domain, diplomatic domain, political domain. Everywhere the option should be worked out, and all the options should be exercised either singly or together before we take further call on this.
So let me just take this one by one. Say, for example, in the military domain, you're saying that talks are continuing today. In fact, talks are still taking place in the Galvan Valley between the major generals of the two sides. Would you say that India's position is that status quo ante has to be restored?
Correct. That is what we have come to conclusion on the 6th of June when the talks took place, and that is what we should work for.
And the Chinese agree?
That we'll wait and see after the talks finish.
But obviously, the talks were also held yesterday, and again, they're being held. So,
yeah, I mean, see, please understand this. There are precedences of long time frame of talks, even in the earlier incidences that has happened. One such example is Samdrungchu, if you look at 1986.
that's right.
How much time it took to disengage. Even Doklam took 72 days to disengage. That doesn't mean talks finished. Talks were happening almost on a daily basis. A number of times the talks were taking place, and then the result was achieved. So to say that one or two talks have failed and so will there be a future is something which we need to wait and watch, because the talks will continue to go on, and somewhere down the line, the understanding will come that the disengagement needs to take place.
But even in Doklam, status quo ante was not restored, was it?
Status quo ante in Doklam was restored. They have gone back and into their territory, and they are waiting there, made a camp there. That is fine. That is their outlook. We can't change that because it's their territory. But in Doklam, what we wanted to achieve, we did achieve. That track is not there, even today.
Track is not there, yeah.
So that is what we wanted to achieve, because that is changing the status quo in the triangular area, the tri-junction area. That we have achieved. If they've gone back into their territory and then they've made a camp there, that is up to them. That is in their territory.
Right. And similarly, in the Galvan Valley, you want status quo ante to be restored, which means that the Chinese troops go back across the line of control into their own...
Where we were existing before this incident started happening in May.
And would you say that in Pangong So, where again there have been intrusions by the Chinese, what is happening there? Do you
see what most of the media has also said this, that the Chinese are come to finger 4 is what we are maintaining, and that is again status quo ante should be going beyond finger 8, which was existing earlier. So this is something that we maintain, that it should happen to the locations which were existing before this incidents happened in the month of May.
So the Chinese have come up to finger 4.
I think that is there in the open domain up to finger 4.
Okay. So are you also talking about the fact that status quo ante has to be restored even in the Pangong So, which is that they go back to finger 8?
Of course. It is definitely the case.
And what about in the hot springs area? Are they occupying the hot springs area as well?
See, these location by location details are actually immaterial. Whether they are occupying, they are not occupying. The thing that we need to look at is actually that they need to go back to the locations which were existing before these incidents happened in the month of May. That is what we need to look at. It doesn't matter which location, where one person is there, 2 person is there, 1 kilometer inside, 1 kilometer away from. Those things are immaterial. What we need to look at is exactly the position that they were holding before the month of May is something that we need to look at.
And is that your bottom line?
That is the bottom line, yes, of course.
That they have to return, the Chinese have to return to the positions that they were in before the 5th of May.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I just bring you, General, to External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar's remarks to the Chinese in the talks that, in the briefing that we got yesterday? He made some very strong points, and he said this was a premeditated action.
See, this premeditated action is something that he had talked about in terms of the 15th of June incident that took place. And the reason why he said that is when the Chinese went back and then came back again, that indicated that there was a premeditated action that was happening there. So that must be the reason why he must have said that.
And why do you think they did that?
We need to ask the Chinese why they did that. After having agreed to the disengagement, why they did that is something that the Chinese should answer, not us.
No, absolutely. But, what is your analysis? Having agreed, why come back?
I'm not sure. I get a feeling that they wanted to ensure that particular place is with them. They must have tried that. So since that didn't happen, we were actually right on time to ensure that didn't happen. So that must have actually upset their plan. So that is why they must have come back again.
You know the Chinese well, General. You speak the language. You have served in these parts in the Eastern Command, like I said earlier. Why do you think the Chinese are getting so aggressive, especially at a time like this when COVID pandemic is sweeping the world and in China as well?
You see, this aggressive behavior should not be looked at as single event which has happened here. Aggressive behavior at China has been there for some time. You look at the way they behave in South China Sea. You look at the way the wolf warrior diplomacy that has been going on. You look at the way that they actually are front loading the medical aid, etc., to overcome the stigma that was there with them to say that they didn't handle it properly. So that aggressive behavior is seen in all areas and all spheres. So that is something which is not only specific to this. So this is a part of an overall behavior probably that country is having at this point in time.
Which is what? Take territory that belongs to somebody else?
That is a question that answer is going to be pretty long in case I have to attempt it. But suffice to say that
why don't you attempt it?
I can attempt it. That is not the issue. Issue is, it appears that the comprehensive national power of China, the way it has grown, it is actually spreading its influence. It tends to spread this influence. That is the power of comprehensive national power of any country when it goes. So you found them moving towards South China Sea. You found them moving towards One Belt One Road initiative. You saw them moving through the financial systems of the world. There are many things that comprehensive national power does. So probably this is one aspect of it. And the line of actual control, the problem is that we don't have an agreed boundary. So it is still open to interpretations. So that is the reason probably these things are happening. And that doesn't justify the aggressiveness. It should not be aggressive. It should
this is more than that. This is more than a difference of perceptions on the LAC, surely, right?
I'm not even saying difference of perception on LAC. I'm only saying there is no agreed boundary. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so the issue that comes up is that we need to resolve this in some form, in the sense that at least the clarification of the LAC, if it takes place, then we can at least understand where the problems are and then ensure that they don't happen. So this is something that we need to attempt to. That doesn't answer the question of why China is behaving aggressively. That seems to be the comprehensive national power expanding itself. Including its military budget, including the military budget in any case has been increasing, as we know. This year also they've increased it by 6.6%. The increase is in physical terms is around $11 billion. If you cater for inflation, if you cater for the GDP growth, everything, still it is higher than what it would be. So, and most of the equipment that China produces is all indigenous. So therefore you find they have more value for money as far as the defense budget goes. So defense budget definitely is growing. And that will show in the modernization of the PLA and everything else.
Right. So last few questions, General, but I do want to draw your attention to this official at the Chinese think tank, Wang Shida, who talked about the fact that one of the reasons, perhaps now, because this is a Chinese think tank, and they're probably articulating what the Chinese government is saying, is that one of the reasons for this aggression across the line of control or this clash was because India changed or reorganized after the 5th of August last year, when Jammu and Kashmir was incorporated into the Indian Union, and changed the maps in the end of October. Would you agree? It is like this. No, that is one article which came up. That's a researcher who has got an opinion on that. You also had Wang Xianfeng from Pakistan in Pakistan making a tweet on this. That seems to be their view. We have clearly mentioned that there's an internal issue of India, and our foreign minister has been to China. When he went there, he explained it, that it is an internal issue. And still, if they want to feel that way, that is up to them. But what is the concern that the reorganization of the state of Jammu and Kashmir and its incorporation into the Indian Union is? So, what is the concern of the Chinese? Can you explain that? Concern of the Chinese is part of the area which we showed in the map as Union Territory of Ladakh.
includes the area of Aksai Chin which they have been claiming.
Right.
So that must be the reason why they are saying that. But we maintain that it is purely an internal issue of India to reorganize the states and union territories the way we feel we feel the requirement. And in fact, our foreign minister has gone and explained to them that it's a purely internal issue. It doesn't have an implication on anything else, is what was explained. So that is something that.
So what did they say to that?
You know what they said to that. You know what Foreign Minister Wang Yi said after that. That they took this issue to the UN Security Council subsequently. They tried to take it to the UN Security Council subsequently. Obviously, they were not comfortable with that idea.
Do you think that they are looking for reasons to aggress into Indian territory?
I don't think they are looking for reasons for aggression into Indian territory. But again, if you look at it, I've written a piece today, I'm sure you read that, how the present incidents are different from the past ones is something I have mentioned there. There are differences that have come in. That doesn't mean that they have been looking for reasons, or they're looking for ways and means of coming into Indian territory. We are very clear where our boundaries are. The forces are very clear where that LAC runs. Absolutely, we are very sure and committed that we will not have any compromise on the territorial integrity part of the country.
So what is the difference this time?
The difference, as I mentioned, is one thing is that it is happening simultaneously in a number of places. Second thing is the coordination which could have been attributed to a local commander earlier wouldn't be valid this time. The third thing is the numbers that they've come are much higher than what they were earlier. And the aggressiveness also is more than last time, more than the previous times. These are the few changes that I have mentioned in that article which I wrote.
So are they trying to change the character of the LAC?
Character of the LAC would not change unilaterally. The character of the LAC, if it has to change, then it has to change, then both sides have to agree. It doesn't work that way. So even if they try, I don't think they'll succeed in that. Okay.
Again, there are reports that because India has been improving its border infrastructure, you're building roads very close to the LAC, and you have an airstrip at Daulat Beg Oldi, which is just a few kilometers from the Karakoram Pass. Do you think that is something that raised red flags?
You see, this part we have covered earlier also in many of the interactions, that China was a first mover as far as infrastructure development is concerned in the border areas. They started the modernization program also about 13 years earlier than us. So what has happened is that they have caught up on the infrastructure. When we are doing the infrastructure, it appears that they have some objections to the way that we are developing our infrastructure.
But do they have objections? Are they objecting to your infrastructure?
They are not objecting to the Darbuk-Shyok-DBO road, because that is very much on the western bank of Shyok River, and it is very much within the Indian territory. So that is something that they can't even think of objecting to. But there may be other infrastructure that we may be trying to develop towards the LAC, which may be worrying them.
Like what?
Maybe some tracks are being constructed. Maybe the bridge that was being constructed. Number of infrastructure projects are coming up. Not only in that area, all across the LAC, you will find our roads are going up. The infrastructure is getting built up. Obviously, there seems to be some worry on that score.
So could there be a possibility that this infrastructure that you're building towards the LAC, the Nala or the bridge or the road, that you could stop doing that?
No. Whatever is within the Indian territory, we have the right to develop the infrastructure the way we want it. Please understand, this infrastructure is not only meant for military purposes. It is also meant for developing those areas and the people who are living there to be connected wherever it is required. So these are all not to be seen only in terms of military purposes. It also have a civilian component attached to it. So we reserve the right to develop the infrastructure in our territory, whichever way we want to do it, and we will continue to do it.
So if the Chinese say that one of the ways to resolve this situation would be for you to demolish, say, a bridge or stop building a road, you would not agree?
Definitely not.
And if they were to build or upgrade their own infrastructure and bring more troops and more sort of, military equipment right up to the LAC from their side. Would that concern you?
See, the issue that comes up is they are at liberty to do what they want on their side. Okay, no, that is their right to develop the infrastructure. They can keep doing whatever they need to do. If they want to bring troops, etc., then I'm sure their counterparts in our army headquarters and armed forces headquarters will obviously take note of it and do what needs to be done. I'm sure that those things are actually being observed, and what plans that are to be made are being made. I mean, that is something. What they want to do in their area, we cannot stop, but we will take whatever action that are required to defend our territory.
General Narasimhan, thank you so much for speaking to The Print. Thank you for your time. Please continue to watch us, read us on our YouTube channel and on our website. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.